book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some cliffhangers. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. This week's topic is purely inspired by the fact that I've been through a cliffhanger as of recently, but it came to my attention. I don't think I've ever done a 7 on Sunday talking about cliffhangers. I mean, yes, I've talked about book hangovers, which are just painful enough as it is. I've talked about books that have made us cry. I've talked about books that have made us angry. I've brought up a wide range of topics so far. However, prior to this moment, I did not set cliffhangers as a theme, so I've decided that that is exactly what I want to talk about today. I've got plenty of books to talk about in terms of cliffhangers. I am not necessarily a big fan of cliffhangers. Yes, they get me excited. Yes, they bring anticipation. I bet that cliffhangers make a key anticipated release for at least one person out there. I know that they do for me. I'm going to talk about these, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what some of your guys' worst cliffhangers were. But yeah, I guess without further ado, I'm going to get stuck into some cliffhangers that I just really cannot get over. Let's start off with a cliffhanger that was technically resolved because the series is already finished. However, this cliffhanger is notorious for being such a big plot twist. It's all done, but I reckon that this cliffhanger started many theories for the fandom back when the fandom was just only experiencing the first 2 books. And you know, it brought about theories to the people who did not read the books and just watch the movies. And speaking of which, I actually experienced this cliffhanger in the cinema because I did not read these books before I watched the movies. I experienced the cinematic experience first, and I was shocked in the movie theater, and everybody else was audibly gasping. So the first cliffhanger I bring up today is the cliffhanger in Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. This is the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy. If you guys are wondering why my cover looks different, it's because I have the Bookish Box Special Edition dust jackets. We all love Catching Fire. Catching Fire is an amazing book. It's an amazing movie. The movie is like 2.5 hours long. The book is very action-packed and eventful, but imagine a cliffhanger so powerful that makes you think that you experienced nothing at all because you need to know what happens next, and you feel like you just did not get enough. That is exactly what Suzanne Collins did. She did not answer a question straight away to make us feel like we didn't really have anything, but then we'd have to like look back and think, oh wait, no, Catching Fire was a lot. It was a lot of information all at once, and I'm very happy that I read it, that I loved it, that I even experienced it cinematically. I just reckon that the plot twist, you know, that is essentially the cliffhanger, is so notorious for being one of those kind of epic endings that doesn't really leave you resolved on anything. I could imagine what kind of theories everybody came up with. Like, I really wish that I was a reader at the time and I was reading the Hunger Games when everyone was in the middle of reading the series back in the day, when Suzanne was in the middle of publishing the books, because it would have just been so interesting to theorize about these things. I wonder what theories they came up with, only to be surprised with Mockingjay in the end. As much as it was so painful to experience, it was kind of epic in a way. And the next cliffhanger I want to bring up is the cliffhanger in These Hollow Vows. Once again, alternative jacket is the real cover right here. The Bookish Box Special Edition. I just like the florals on this one. The cliffhanger. Once again, it made me feel the feelings of, I don't think I read a full book, but at the very same time, you look back at it, you take some time to meditate and simmer in it, and you realize, yeah, you know, I did read a full book, but now I have to wait until next year in order to get the answers that I need. It had that effect on me. I just really wish I got a continuation straight away. This is the reason why I binge read things. Like, this is the reason why I wait for things. However, with These Hollow Vows, I don't think I could wait. Like, I just needed to read it. I'm so happy I did because, oh my goodness, I love this book series. I'm actually very happy with the plot twist and the cliffhanger because I know some of you guys did not see the twist coming. I technically did, not completely, but I technically did to some degree. I'm actually just mostly happy with the direction of the plot twist. However, the fact that we have to wait another year for Bree to get vindication, that's the painful part. The next series I bring up is full, absolutely full of cliffhangers. But the book that I want to bring up is actually the book that I'm currently reading, and as much as I was not a fan of the full book itself because I feel like it waffles on and we spend too much time with a character who's manipulating the 2 main characters, it just really gets annoying and it just honestly makes the book longer than it should be. The cliffhanger is the best part of the book. The book that I'm talking about is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I've talked about how annoyed I get at Alistair. Like, he's probably one of the most annoying characters I've ever had to experience in a book. And honestly, as much as it's kind of cool to have characters play with certain characters' emotions, I feel like we could have gotten to know him in a different way and he would have been a lot more interesting. So that's technically my gripe with A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, because he honestly ruins the story for me, but also he technically ruins the story for the main characters. This book, a lot of people like and a lot of people overhype. I appreciate some of you guys who see it at the level of Akamath, but it really isn't. I'm sorry. Spending almost an entire book being manipulated by an old man is not Akamath. However, the cliffhanger at the end of this book is kind of incredible because it made us all kind of theorize what was to happen next. If the cliffhanger didn't happen, then I don't think I would have been interested to continue on with this series as much as I was, and I'm so happy I continued on with The Crown and Gilded Bones. As much as a lot of people say that that's their least favorite book, I mean, honestly, how's that your least favorite if you've read A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire? Ugh, stop chucking shade, G-Swizz. Okay, I'm in the middle of rereading this book right now, and it's painful. I have noticed with every single one of Jennifer L. Armentrout's books in this series, there is some sort of a massive cliffhanger. I'd say the least painful cliffhanger I've experienced in this world would probably have to be A Shadow in the Embers cliffhanger. Even though that is definitely a cliffhanger, it's less painful knowing the potential that the direction can go in. However, with A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, I feel like as much as the moment I'm hung on The Crown of Gilded Bones cliffhanger, that cliffhanger is wild. I just remember how much I audibly gasped at this cliffhanger because of what came out of the Queen's mouth at the very end. For some reason, that shocked me so much because I was like, oh my god, are you serious right now? And I wanted to know more, and we got more answers in The Crown of Gilded Bones, so I'm thankful for that. And then I have to talk about the cliffhanger in Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I could also talk about Scythe. Scythe had one of the most ridiculous cliffhangers slash plot twists that I've ever read that I just did not see coming. However, Thunderhead, I feel like, left people on the edge extremely, especially because the toll did not come out for another 2 years. People were left on this cliff for a very long time, so I can understand why it would be painful to them. It was definitely painful to me when I read it. I know that I had the toll to jump into like straight away, but just the uncertainty that came with the end of this book, it took me out, man. I was worried, I was scared, I was concerned, and I'm pretty sure a majority of the fandom were as well. So yeah, we all kind of experienced it. We all kind of felt it. As much as I'd say the content of the books are definitely what make me think about the series, the cliffhangers also do as well because of how much they shocked me. So a lot of the time when I think about the series, I do think about how wild these cliffhangers were. So that is why I had to include it on my list. I still cannot get over these cliffhangers, even though the series is already finished, you know? The next book I want to bring up with a cliffhanger that blew my mind, essentially. It's a plot twist and, you know, it leaves us with questions. Yeah, right now I'm just not over it. I still need time to process it. It's a very painful one, and that is the cliffhanger to Court by Tracy Wolff. There are cliffhangers in this series. So like the first book, Crave, ends on like an ultimate cliffhanger. Every single one of the books in Crave leaves on a wild cliffhanger. Like the cliffhanger at the end of Crush. Oh my goodness. That is one of my favorite cliffhangers of all time, and I'm not gonna lie, it was quite sexy. My personal opinion. Yeah, yeah. Guys, I'm begging you, do not read the last page of Crush before you read the rest of the book, please. Crush is a pretty good book that lets you know another character. We have the final chapter in his perspective. But anyway, I'm talking about Court here because Court is the cliffhanger that essentially, at the moment, it's just one of those cliffhangers that is very painful to leave on because it's kind of sad, but also I don't actually know what's gonna happen next. I really don't know what's gonna happen next. Maybe Charm will give us a few answers, even though Charm is kind of like a side adventure, but the fact that we have to wait until probably Cherish to have like all the answers, essentially, to have this series finish. I just really hope that our main characters get a happy ending. So Court was just a very wild cliffhanger. Covet had a wild cliffhanger as well. I'd have to say Crush had the best cliffhanger, like the cliffhanger that made me go like, yes! But at the moment, Court is probably the most painful cliffhanger, and I really need to know what happens next. We can't talk about cliffhangers without bringing up Cassandra Clare. And I think that the City of Fallen Angels cliffhanger is probably one of her most notorious cliffhangers she has left us off with, because she came out with a complete plot twist that not many of us were expecting at all. And I'm not gonna lie, I did not really like City of Fallen Angels. I can't say that it's pointless, but there wasn't really much that happened in it. It felt very much like a bridge book. However, the cliffhanger is essentially what drew people back into the series. because then it led on to City of Lost Souls and City of Heavenly Fire. It essentially revived the series. It gave us a new life, and also it gave us a new villain. I'm so happy that we experienced that within City of Fallen Angels, because I actually felt like DNFing the series in the middle of this book alone, so I wasn't necessarily a big fan of it, unfortunately. However, if it wasn't for the cliffhanger, if it wasn't what we ended off on, then I don't think I would have continued on with the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I'm so happy that I did, because it ended pretty good. I reckon that the cliffhanger just made up for the slowness of this book, and I'm just really satisfied with how things went. I'd have to say that out of all the cliffhangers that Cassandra Clare has gone through, this was one of the most notorious, and the next book I'm going to mention also has a very notorious cliffhanger as well, but it's probably a lot more painful at this time. And that, my friends, is the cliffhanger in Chain of Iron. The shock I experienced at the end of this book. See, the thing is, as much as I like the Mortal Instrument series, and as much as I like the modern day American Shadowhunters series, I'm actually a bigger fan of what took place back in the day. In saying this, the Infernal Devices is one of my favorite series of all time, and I believe that The Last Hours, if the last book is done well, this will probably be one of my new favorite Shadowhunter trilogies. I don't know if it will top the Infernal Devices, but what I do know is that I love this trilogy so far. The ending of this book in particular was so painful. It still is painful. Like, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still so sad about it, because I really just did not want it to end. There are so many characters that I love and I adore, and at the end of this book, a lot of them are in pain, and it's not something that I want to bear. It's not something I want to hold on to, but unfortunately, it's looking like that at the moment. All I'm thinking about is Lucy right now and how much I love her, and like, I'm just seeing her right now. Yeah, so this is essentially how I feel. I feel really sad at the moment because of the cliffhanger, and for anybody who has read the book, they know exactly why. It's just not ideal. It's not fun to be left hanging like this at all. The final author that I bring up on this list, I have 3 books from them, one from each different series. I'm going to talk about the most painful cliffhangers from them. One of their books inspired this video. So I'm essentially going to be talking about one of the most painful cliffhangers I've ever experienced in my life, and that, my friends, is Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas. Once again, alternative dust jacket, but I'm pretty sure you guys know what the cover looks like. I remember reading this just before going on to a family vacation, or more like a girls trip in my sister's family. You know, it was an interesting trip. I actually didn't really enjoy it. The reason why I didn't enjoy it was because all I was thinking about was the wild cliffhanger that happened at the end of Empire Storms. I binge read this book within a day or two so that I could just focus on the trip and I could just enjoy myself, but I wasn't enjoying myself. No, I was tortured by the fact that I had just finished Empire of Storms and I did not know what to do. It was just that kind of book that really got me, that really pulled on my heartstrings, that made me cry, that made me sob. It made me sob so much. And you know, I've cried a lot reading Sarah J Maas's books, that I actually feel like making a tear-raking video of how much I've cried based on each book. I've considered that. Her books tend to get me, and I think it's because that we kind of almost think the same way in terms of mental states. I don't know. I mean, she's made some decisions in her books that I've never really been a fan of. However, I love how she addresses mental health and how she addresses some kind of heroicism. I don't know, like, I've always looked up to some of her characters, and I definitely looked up to the characters that she wrote in Empire of Storms. I loved Empire of Storms. I felt like I really bonded with all of these characters, and I was so heartbroken to find out how this book ended. It made me so sad. I remember going on to that vacation. Me, my sister, and her family back then went to a Thai restaurant, and I saw a girl who looked around 11 or 12 at another table, and she wasn't paying attention to her family talking at the table. She was sitting down reading her copy of Empire of Storms. All I could do was stare back and just try not to cry for her. It was hilarious. I was just thinking, oh no, she's gonna be destroyed. And my sister was like, Grace, are you okay? And I was just like, she's reading the book. And my sister was pretty much just like, it's just a book, get over it. This book had an emotional chokehold on me for weeks. I even showed clips of me crying about it on my channel. I was unmedicated back then. I used to get really emotional over books back when I was unmedicated. I still get emotional over books, it's just I'm able to control it better. However, it never will take away from the emotional experience that the cliffhanger in Empire of Storms gave me, and the fact that we had to wait so long for Kingdom of Ash was just kind of heartbreaking to me, but we made it there eventually. And the second last book I have to bring up is very self-explanatory. This cliffhanger right here is very painful. So according to Mr. Fury, I don't think I need to explain how much of a painful cliffhanger this is for anybody who has read the series, but what I do know is that it's less painful knowing that you can jump straight into A Court of Wings and Ruin. I remember when this book first came out and people were not okay. They were not okay left, right, and center. Like everywhere I went, they were not okay. And now getting to see people read book back to back to back, they're so fortunate. They really are. Like the fact that my husband was able to binge read the first 3 books all in a row was kind of incredible, and I'm really happy for him. It's very interesting. He actually didn't like this book as much as he loved the first book, and I think the first book he just really liked the pacing of it. He just didn't like the pacing of this one. However, he loved the cliffhanger. He was like, what? Oh my goodness, I did not expect that. Like he was so invested in the story after the cliffhanger. I don't know, maybe a lot of us love A Court of Mist and Fury for the direction of the romance and for the direction of like meeting the new characters and stuff. I mean, they are technically our new favorite characters, so like I can't blame everybody for loving A Court of Mist and Fury. It's good and it's significant also for healing, you know? He didn't like A Court of Mist and Fury as much, but the cliffhanger actually kept him reading. And so I'm really happy that the cliffhanger kept him reading because it made for a very engaging story. However, it was definitely very painful to all of us who read it originally. I'd have to say that this was a very painful cliffhanger, at least for me. I reckon that everybody else's experience is different, but right now I'm experiencing another painful cliffhanger, and I'm pretty sure that everybody who's read it recently is also experiencing the pain and the weight of this cliffhanger, and that is what inspired this video, and I have to just talk about it. This book, House of Sky and Breath. I think a lot of people would talk about chapter 78, but also like the epilogue. I think a lot more people are more interested in how the series, I don't want to spoil anything, but how Sarah is able to make a connection between one and another thing. However, I am very much invested in the Crescent City world. I'm not saying that I'm not excited for what is to come in the world of Sarah J Maas in general. However, I'm not even just in pain for what happened in chapter 78. There's so much more that I'm in pain about. Are the characters okay? Are the other characters okay? Are they really okay right now? I just need to know. I understand that not many people care about the Crescent City characters as much as they care about every one of Sarah J Maas's characters in like the other series, but I care about these characters so much. I just want to know that they're okay. And the epilogue had me feeling some type of way. I am nervous. I need to know, like I'm anxious to know what happens next. After the cliffhanger in the epilogue, I really need to know how things go. I'm starting to feel attached to like some of the other characters as well. I just want Rune to be okay. I want Hunt to be okay. I want Bryce to be okay. I want Ethan to be okay. I want some other characters that I'm just not going to mention the names of for the sake of people actually getting to know them. I just want them all to be okay right now. I am doing my best not to think about this book at the moment. This is actually the first time I am allowing myself to talk about it in the last week, but it's just been so hard because I've been seeing people's reviews and all it really does is like open the wounds and makes me kind of like sad. Even though some people go to reviews so that they can feel understood, I think at the moment my method to make sure that I am doing okay is to kind of avoid it altogether. But yeah, I don't think avoidance is a good choice because I'm just going to bottle up all these emotions. I'm feeling a lot about this book and I'm not okay right now. This is one of the worst cliffhangers I've ever had to experience, and this is one of the worst hangovers I'm going through in terms of a book series. Sarah, why do you keep doing this? Yes, that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay till the end of this video, leave me the upside down smiley face emoji. You know, as if like we're hanging upside down. I don't know. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers, and also I have social medias. I'm at gswizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.